Chapter 6, From Constitution to Constitution. As I stated in the last chapter, in Chapter 5, Kentucky became a state on June 1st, 1792. But the United States government kept rejecting our request for admission. They said that we were frontiers people and we had slavery. The United States government also believed that there was no one the U.S. government also believed that there was no one intelligent enough in Kentucky to write or establish a constitution. And this ticked us off when we heard that. Isaac Shelby, at 41 years old, he became Kentucky's first governor. Ironically, he was one of the electors elected to go to Danville to elect someone. He lived in Maryland, North Carolina, and Virginia before coming to Kentucky. He also served in Lord Dunmore's War, and he worked for the Transylvania Company. He was elected to the Virginia legislature in 1779. He found out that he could not serve after he was elected, that he could not serve because his home was discovered to be in North Carolina. He did win fame in the American Revolution. He fought in Kings Mountain. In 1783, he and his wife, Susanna Hart Shelby, moved to Lincoln County, Kentucky. Isaac, he was politically sharp, very, very, very intelligent man. He turned out to be a good governor, and he was the first Kentucky governor. So he wasn't, again, I just have in here that he was a good governor. He wasn't the greatest or the best, but he was good, and he was good for Kentucky. He would run for governor again in 20 years. However, this would be only served one term. You back up. So again, he would run for governor again in 20 years, but only served one term. The first meeting of the new government, they met in Lexington. Robert Breckinridge, he came from Virginia to Kentucky and was the first Speaker of the House. There was a militia organized and made Benjamin Logan Major general in the militia. Needed money to run the government, so they placed tax on land, slaves, and livestock. It's also a sin tax. They passed stamp tax on papers, and this is why we fought the Revolution. All those taxes that England was passing, and you had to pay tax on wills, anything made of paper. You kind of probably seen a stamp if you're a smoker, as far as on the cigarettes. You'll see that stamp. So this first meeting, it was decided to make Frankfort the capital. They would use the former Wilkinson home that's now owned by Andrew Holmes. Boonesboro would make a bid to be capital, but it just wasn't sophisticated or large enough, and just decided at the meeting that we wanted something new and better. So the decision was to make Frankfort the capital. Just some of the happenings in 1790. 9 counties grew to 42 by 1800. Slavery increases 241%. Planters who own slaves, they want Article 9 repealed. There's still Indian problems in the Northwest Territory. That's land of the Ohio and east of the Mississippi. At the Battle of Fallen Timbers, General Mad Anthony Wayne is put in charge. He came up with a group of 1,500 mounted Kentuckians. Very, very good shooting power here. Anytime there was a fight, they wanted Kentuckians involved. We were Kentuckians, just known at that time as sharpshooters. So anytime a fight, a war, we were heavily recruited. They met at Fort Miami near Toledo, Ohio, which is almost into Canada. The fight was going good, and the Indians decided they were losing, and so they go to their British friends and demand to be let in the fort. The British betrayed the Indians and did not let them in, and the Indians would be forced to sign the Treaty of Greenville, and by 1795, the Indian danger is over. Just some of the continuing problems. Slavery is still a big issue in our state. Article 9 is still in effect. Violators of this article were fined $300 if you bring in a slave to sell, but slaves not taken. At this time in Kentucky, slaves were sold for between $900 and $1,000. This $300 fine was just used for the cost of business. Did not stop slavery, did slow it down a little. And religious groups were pushing for abolition. Some of the political parties in the beginning, we did not have political parties. We had partisan groups. And we're beginning to see political parties being formed with the new U.S. Constitution. The Federalists, led by George Washington and John Adams, they are for a strong federal government. The Anti-Federalists are led by Thomas Jefferson and James Madison, and they're for a strong state government. Kentuckians, we favored the Anti-Federalist because of Jefferson, and Virginia being the mother, so to speak, of our state. We also thought that states should have the right to make their own decisions and that we should not have someone looking over us. So then the Spanish problem. Those Mississippi River problems, it's the only good method for sending crops to market. However, the Spanish controlled the New Orleans port, and they closed the port. They're afraid of Americans coming in. They are afraid of Americans coming in droves in Mississippi, and they're afraid of us. John Breckinridge, a newcomer, 1792, he's chairman of the committee to force the opening. French Revolution is going on in Europe, and the French government, they're nearly bankrupt for helping us fight the Revolutionary War. 97% of the land was owned by nobility or the religious orders. Poor people pay the taxes. The French Revolution became bloody, and started executing people. George Washington declared neutrality as we are a new country. The French, they wanted New Orleans back. George Rogers Clark of Kentucky, he was offered to lead a French legion of 1,500 men against the Spanish settlements in Louisiana. This offer was accepted by Genet, ambassador of France. Clark received a commission and promises of support. However, President Washington forbids Clark to continue this expedition. President receives little support from Isaac Shelby. Genet moves to Pennsylvania in the end, and he marries a German girl, and he becomes a farmer. Uh, 1796, there's a disputed election, and Shelby leaves. This election indicated that the Constitution needed some changes. The use of electors was objectionable by the people. And they thought the court system was hostile to ordinary people and desperately repeal of Article 9. Also wanted ministers excluded from the General Assembly. They were too anti-slavery. Breckinridge would lead the anti-revisionist, just wants to leave the Constitution alone. The constitutional changes in 1799. Article 9 is reinstated. Failure to pass future halt of slaves. The ministers, they wanted to stop the import of slaves. Suffrage requirements are clarified. The black mulattoes and the Indians could not vote. The electors discarded for governor. Now the people, the public, the people of Kentucky vote for the governor. There's a ballot vote is also discarded. So now there's a voice vote, which means now whoever you go to vote for, you have to voice your vote. People can overhear you. They can hear who you vote for. So now who you vote for, because it's a voice vote, it's not a private vote. So everyone will know who you vote for. It comes in effect June 1st, 1880, is when the new Constitution took effect. Just the date, August 1799, is when it was actually voted on. Changes approved by members of the convention, not by the general public, as these members of the convention, they believed that they knew what the public wanted. And just make sure that you do read chapters 5 and 6. Make sure that you take some good notes. Just get your notes from your text also, along with the information that I've provided to you in the PowerPoints, and just complete the assignment for this week.